You ask questions, stick around for the answers. You know cashews are in the poison ivy family, right? Did you avoid healthy fat like coconut and avocados while trying to lose weight? How did you get your kids on board with eating plant-based? Is it necessary to blend chia seeds? Why do we need to eat so many plants if they are so nutrient-dense? Any tips for meal planning for a toddler who changes what he will eat or not, mostly not from day to day? Are you raising Annie? Greetings and welcome to or welcome back to PB with Jay and to our February 2025 edition of our mailbag series, which you seem to be enjoying. So thanks for that. Before we get into the questions, just a little bit of light PB with Jay housekeeping. You need to get your orders in as soon as possible for our second printing of the cookbook. If you've been holding off, now is the time, because we're going to be doing those orders this week. And if you haven't signed up for one, you might not get one. And I don't know when or if we will be doing another printing after this. So don't hesitate if you've been holding off. We autograph them and everything. That's fun, right? If you enjoyed this video, obviously let us know in the comments down below, but also feel free to throw a question down there for us to answer in a future edition of our mailbag video. If you got questions for other members of the family, you can throw those down there as well, and I'll keep track of them. Before I get into our first question, I'd just like to give a quick hello to some of the people who've said hello to us in the comments down below. Andrea from British Columbia, Canada. Janine from Aurora, Ontario. Tabitha from Winter Park, Florida. Christy from the foothills of North Carolina. Joanna from upstate New York. Jennifer G from Worcestershire, United Kingdom. Garden and Grub from Brampton, Ontario. Tracy from Portland, Oregon. No Catfish Nana from Concord, California. Sandy from Denver, Colorado, who says they desperately need a part 2 to our soup video. I'll keep that in mind. Rosemary Henry from Ozone Park, New York. Erin from Bend, Oregon. And Janice didn't say where she's from, but I know where she's from on the internet, and that is our Mighty Network. Our Mighty Network is a group of like-minded individuals who don't yuck anyone's yum. It's like PB with J 2.0. You get a bump up on our shout-out list, but also you get all these other wonderful perks, all for the price of a crappy cup of coffee a month. All right, to the questions. Do you or anyone else have a suggestion on how to keep track of which recipes in which cookbooks you'd like or want to try? I put a sticky on the front of my favorite recipes with page numbers, but sometimes it falls off and doesn't help with the recipes I want to try. Great question. How I break down the cookbooks we're reviewing is I actually have, if you're hearing nonstop jingling, that is Velma in the background with her collar, so I apologize for that. I'm just looking, I have these little sticky notes that I reuse. That when I get a cookbook from the library or from wherever we get them from when we're reviewing, I kind of take them out and I put them in the side, and then I let our family move them up. So it could be like, if you can get little sticky tabs like that, you could potentially do that, like have them on the side, and if you like them, move them up to the top of the book. That's one thing. One thing I used to do in my bullet journal is I'd actually have a section for recipes I wanted to try, and so it was just like a running list. I'd keep a couple pages open to keep adding to it, and so anytime I had a new cookbook, I'd write the name of the cookbook in it, and then I just add like a list of bullets for all the recipes from that book I wanted to try with the page numbers in it. That takes a little bit of extra time, but then you can check them off, and if you want, you could even color code checking them off. You could use like a green marker for I liked it, red for I didn't, whatever colors you want. So those are the two ways that I would suggest. Let me know in the comments down below if anyone else watching has any other thoughts on how they do it for Marines. This question comes from Faith Everlasting. You know cashews are in the poison ivy family, right? Yes, you are correct. Cashews are related to poison ivy, but the good news is that the toxin inside of them, I'm going to say it wrong, urushiol, I'm putting it right here. The word is right here. You can Google it. You know me, I'm not good at pronouncing things. The good thing is that is removed during the plant's cooking and steaming process, which means that cashews, once they're cooked or steamed, are completely nutritious and healthy to eat, so you don't have to worry about it at all. I felt weird about putting this in because it's more of a compliment, but I thought it could lead to interesting things. Your cookbook review doubles as classes for how to be amazing parents. That's very, very sweet and generous of you. I'm sure like every other parent in the world, we don't always feel like amazing parents. The reason I put this in here is because I thought I could take an opportunity just to give like what little parenting advice that I could cobble together. And it mostly just centers around the idea of respecting your kids, right? And their choices as well. And we'll talk about that in a later question that someone else asked. But one thing that I heard early on and I took it to heart was that when our kids are at their worst, we have to be at their best. Our best. When they're at their worst, we have to be at our best. And that is hard to do when you've got a kid that is being crappy and yelling at you and making you feel awful. To turn the upper cheek and not just shout back at them or to, give them some random punishment, that is hard to do as parents, right? To just suck it up and realize that they need you right now. But those are the things that you can do to really strengthen your relationship with your kids. It's just when they're being awful to you, be even better to them than you normally would be. And you'll be surprised because usually them being terrible to you is a reaction to something else. We always hurt the ones we love the most, right? And especially if you've got teenagers, just realize that you are the thing they think about the least right now in their lives. And it's not their fault. It's just part of being a teenager. You just become an inherently selfish person. And I know that sounds negative, but I don't mean it to be negative. It's just what it is. So if you want to, be part of your kids' lives as they grow older and they kind of separate from you, the trick is to be interested in what they're interested in. Don't keep trying to get them to be interested in what you're interested in. That is why, like, Taylor Swift was my most listened to artist on my Spotify playlist, and I'm somehow coaching a baseball team. Neither things that I probably would have done on my own. But my kids were into those things. I got into those things. Sound off with your own parenting advice down below. And maybe I'll do like a video in the future about plant-based parenting advice. Is that interesting for you? Eastern Europe and Tracksuit 3312 asks, how did you get your kids on board with eating plant-based? So our kids from birth were raised pescatarian. Here's the definition of pescatarian, if you're not sure what that is. So eating plant-based wasn't like a giant leap for them to take. It's pretty close. And then as I've gone completely plant-based, and Wooly did as well, they eat what we make, right? Now, they are still pescatarian. They're not 100% whole food plant-based the way we are. I'd say they're like 80 to 90%. And every now and then, they'll have a little bit of dairy cheese. They don't really eat meat at all. They'll have a little bit of seafood sometimes, and then dairy, and that's really it. And for baked goods, they're not picky when it comes to eggs and all that kind of stuff. So the advice for that is just let them come to it on their own, right? You can't control their journey as much as you want to. And our opinions were always that if we force them to eat the way we do, they'll probably just rebel when they're with their friends or when they go off on their own anyway. I always assumed that by this point, Ephraim would be like a full-on omnivore, just because he always really gravitated towards like the meatier flavors with plant-based, but he still hasn't. I know I've talked about this before on the channel, so this might be repeating myself. The real trick is to like figure out the foods that they like to eat and make them using the ingredients that you want them to eat them with. Wrapping this up, I think it's like, lead by example, and then just hope your kids make good choices as well. Paul Guthrow asks, is it necessary to blend chia seeds? No, you don't need to blend chia seeds to get the maximum nutritional benefits out of them. I know a lot of people say and think that, but it's not true. However, blending them can make them easier to digest and give them a much smoother consistency, like we have done on the channel a dozen times with our chia pudding. I don't have anything else to say. Do you want to know how to use chia seeds? I didn't write down who asked this next question, so I apologize if it was you. Why do we need to eat so many plants if they are so nutrient dense? Are we eating more plants because they are protein and calorie sparse, so the nutrient denseness is irrelevant because we are eating more nutrients other than protein than our body needs? That's a good question. The short answer is that we eat a variety of plants not because they're nutrient dense, but because they provide a range of essential nutrients, as well as fiber and energy that give us our optimal health. Yes, the majority of plant foods can be lower in calories and protein than traditional food, but that's also kind of part of its charm. Especially when so many calorie-dense and overly processed foods seem to dominate our culture and create the obesity epidemic that is happening, particularly in North America, where most of us watching this live. And I would actually disagree that there isn't adequate amounts of protein in plant food. There's protein in everything, and especially if you eat a wide variety, you're getting all of the building blocks of protein that you need. But it's also providing everything else you need, adequate amounts of vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, and fiber. Think of it like fueling your body with the best quality gasoline there is. Peggy asks, did you avoid healthy fat like coconut and avocados while trying to lose weight? No, I strove for a balance. So I didn't avoid it at all. What I made sure was that I had healthy amounts. So for me, a healthy portion was like having like a handful of nuts per meal if I was having nuts in that meal, which is about 2 tablespoons. And I'd probably limit my nut intake when I was losing weight to like a 1/4 cup a day. For an avocado, I wouldn't not have avocado, but I'd only have probably about a 1/4 of it max a day, and then share the rest of the avocado with the rest of the family. We need healthy fats in order for our bodies to survive and to thrive. Let me just read off all of the things that healthy fats do for us. They provide energy, they support brain health, they help absorb vitamins, they help reduce bad cholesterol levels and increase good cholesterol levels. They reduce inflammation, promote healthy skin and hair, and they contribute to satiety. So many reasons why you should not be eliminating healthy fats from your diet when you're losing weight. Because the reality is, you're going to eventually end up eating them again anyway once you get into maintenance for your weight loss. You might as well keep eating them all the way throughout so that way it doesn't become like a shock to your system. You need fat. It's not bad for you. Just make sure it's coming from a healthy, clean, whole food source. And the last question, I apologize, I forgot to write down who asked it, so if you're watching this, I'm sorry. Any tips for meal planning for a toddler who changes what he will eat or not, mostly not from day to day? Are you raising Annie? Sounds like you've stolen my daughter. The real answer is give them lots of options. We call it the illusion of choice in our family. It's this thing where you give kids the autonomy of making their own decisions, but you control the breadth of those choices, right? So, one thing we did with our kids when they were little, and honestly, this is still how Annie eats a lot of the time, is we would do meals that were like bars. So you'd have lots of different vegetables out. You'd have maybe even like 2 different choices of beans or a bean and a tofu, 1 or 2 different sauces. And it could just be like tomato sauce from the fridge, so you don't have to like do tons of extra work. But the idea is that you get to go in there and make your own meal, but you have to have something from all the different categories. But they get to choose what that something is, right? So they get to make the meal their own, but you get to decide what their options are, right? So like you win and they win. The other thing is like take them to the grocery store with you and let them pick out fruit and vegetables that they want to eat. They might surprise you with the selection they pick both at the store and just as part of putting their meals together. Also, I remember reading a study a long time ago that it takes people like 12 times eating something before they can realistically say if they like or don't like it. I don't know why that is. I can try to look up that study, but that always stuck with me too, just from my own issues with certain foods, is I got to keep on trying them, because just because I didn't like them the first time the way I first ate it doesn't mean that it's not good. Thanks for watching this mailbag video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you've got any questions you'd like us to ask, you can throw them in the comments down below in this or any other video. And if I think it's relevant for this, I'll add it to the pile. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button to let YouTube know to share this with other people. Obviously, subscribe if you haven't yet. Don't forget to get your orders for the physical copy of the cookbooks in, because they're only available for a very, very limited time moving forward. And if you're still here, YouTube wants you to watch this video next. They've been saving it for you for a day just like today. Thanks.